What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the show. We are your hosts, Chase and Miles, and we are at the Lucky Duck. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on this very blessed day. Blessed be to thee. Blessed be to thee. Thank you. Got a great show for you. Thanks for listening in. Miles, who do we have on today?
You don't know?
I forgot.
I thought you booked her.
The producer did. They didn't tell me. It's a blind booking.
I didn't even prepare an intro.
God damn it.
Well, it was 3 years ago when I first didn't meet her because my brother didn't care enough to introduce her to me. It was only 3 or 4 days ago that I actually met her. Her name is Angie. She comes from Miami. Yeah, we've probably known her all our lives because we also live in Florida and it's a super small state, so everyone knows each other. But I don't know what her hobbies are. I don't know what other things she likes because Logan's a piece of shit. But what I do know is that today and all of this week, I'm going to learn a lot about her. And you are too. And you are too. This is Angie.
Welcome. Yay.
Hi. I don't know anything about me either, so
Cool.
this will be a journey together.
I actually know
Perfect.
a lot of stuff about you
Oh,
already.
God.
Yeah. Logan
Cheers.
talks.
What are we drinking, Angie?
Well, I'm drinking a non-alcoholic pina colada. I don't know about you guys.
Ours has alcohol in it.
Oh, I think I forgot to mention that this is Logan's fiance.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Logan's our
That's
brother.
a key piece of information.
If you haven't seen his podcast episode, please go watch it.
Or don't.
Yeah. We also have a super secret extra edition podcast of him that if you subscribe to our Patreon, you will get access.
Oh,
Super secret, super secret.
that's
super
crazy.
He throws around a lot of racial slurs in that one, so you might want to check it out. It's going to be a good one. Just kidding about the racial slurs. Maybe I'm not, maybe I am. You'll have to find out.
We would cut it out.
Yes, welcome, Angie. Thanks for joining us. We're really, really excited to get to talk to you in length and in a very intimate vacuum setting because, like Miles mentioned, this is our first time meeting you, since
About
Logan,
5 minutes ago.
About,
Wow.
yeah, 5 minutes ago, yeah. So, yeah, what's up? Who are you? Why are you the way that you are?
I don't even think a psychiatrist could tell me why I am the way that I am.
Okay.
Nice. Honest.
But I don't know. I don't know who I am. I'm Angie.
Angie.
Yeah.
Angelina or Angie?
Angelina.
Okay.
Angelina, if you want to get fancy with it.
Angelina?
Angelina.
All right, what is that? Is that is that Cuban, Puerto Rican? What are we
Yeah,
with?
that's just the Cuban Puerto Rican
Okay.
way of saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So you are from Miami, Florida, is that right?
Yeah, born and raised.
Nice. And you met Logan in Florida State, right?
I did. We met at a UFC party, actually. A friend of ours was throwing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
That
Who was
sounds fun.
fighting?
I couldn't tell you.
This is like the moment where you like break out into like a 5-minute like segment where you're just like, it was this guy and he was doing this and he was looking at me from across the room.
No.
And I had, okay. No.
No,
All right,
no.
No special.
And you were like, that guy, gonna marry him.
No. He was just this like weird, skinny, dorky kid.
Yep.
That was kind of it.
Yeah.
He's cool now, though.
Well,
Some say.
Well, yeah. You can't inflate his ego too much, right?
no. But I will take credit for the cool that he's at now.
Okay. That makes sense.
So, you're drinking a non-alcoholic
Yeah.
beverage because of why?
I don't drink, mostly because I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease and lupus in 2019. I double-checked.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and I am about a year and a half post-transplant.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's exciting.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
So, could we start from the beginning? Like exactly like what happened? How did you
Sure.
get diagnosed?
Yeah.
Like what's that story? Please.
It's chaotic, and I blame that mostly because I am a younger woman, and it's really hard for women to be diagnosed. It takes years longer than men most of the time.
Why is that?
That's just the way the system works. Unfortunately, I think that there's this idea that women are exaggerating when they come in and say that something's wrong with them, or they're fine, or it's normal, or whatever else. And so it's led to, like, statistically, women do take longer to be diagnosed, and more often than not, it's usually by another woman physician who actually sits down and takes the time to pay attention to them, which is pretty much the same in my case, actually. So I'd been sick for a while, since like 2018, and I was like, no one could figure it out. No one was taking me seriously. They just basically told me to keep going home.
So
And
2018 was a year before being diagnosed,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And I like couldn't keep food down, but I was gaining weight, and I was sick all the time, really tired. I threw up blood at one point, and I went into the ER, and they were like, "You're fine. You don't have ulcers. You don't have this. You don't have that. Go home." And I don't, and I kept saying, like, something's wrong. Like, I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I don't party. Like, and no offense to anybody like that, but like those weren't the contributing, like, that's not the cause. So it's obviously something else is going on. And I was never taken seriously until 2019. It was summer. And actually, Dom made me go work out.
Our cousin Dom, which you guys hopefully will get him on the podcast soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a mutual friend. And I was like bench pressing, and my arm started hurting. But I kind of blew it off as like, well, I don't really work out. It's just, pain, whatever. Eventually, my arm swelled up to like 13 inches around. And it was huge.
God.
Yeah, I like measured it and everything.
Wow.
And I actually went to the FSU clinic. And so I went in, and they were like, "We think you have rhabdo. We're going to do a blood test because rhabdo tends to affect the kidneys. But in the meantime, you should go into the ER, make sure you don't have compartmental syndrome, and they don't have to like slice your arm open to release the pressure or anything like that." I went into the ER. They said I was fine. They were like, "Go home. You're fine. It's not a big deal." The very next morning, the nurse from FSU, who was like, "Let's take a blood test. Let's make sure you're okay," called me, and she's like, "Are you in the hospital right now?" And I was like, "No, why?" They said I was fine. She goes, "You need to go back. You're not fine. Something's really wrong with your kidneys. Like, I don't understand why they sent you home. You need to go back and not let them send you home."
Now, was she just like calling you to check up on you, or had she like discovered something since you had last been there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so she, before I had left, she's like, "I'm going to run a blood test." She's like, "I'll call you if something's wrong." She goes, "If I don't call you in the next couple days, no biggie, you're okay." She goes, "If I call you, something's up." So she called me, and she's like, "I don't understand why they let you go home." And she's like, "You need to go back." So I went back, and, my arm's huge, and they still weren't really taking me seriously, and I, like, brought in my test results and everything to say, like, something's wrong. I have proof. Nobody told me what was going on. They just admitted me. And nobody told me what was happening. And I get into the hospital, and they're like, "All right, we're going to do a biopsy of your kidney." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Something's wrong. Your creatinine's really high, which is not okay. We need to do a biopsy." So they did a biopsy of my left kidney, which how they do that is basically like a piercing needle. So it's a really big needle with a hole in the middle.
Mhm.
Put that into my back, and then they take this little tiny like grabber claw thing, and they put it through the middle and basically like snap off a chunk of tissue and rip it out.
Whoa.
That's exactly how I thought they would do it.
Yeah.
And they put you under for
No,
that?
I'm wide awake.
Oh my
All of it,
God.
yeah.
Did that hurt?
It's uncomfortable.
Okay.
It was more scary than anything. I actually remember having a nurse stay and hold my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, I didn't really know what was going on. They weren't talking to me, which is super fucking disrespectful.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
I think they're trying to keep you calm. And I know where some people, if you give them too much information, then they start to freak out. I'm very much the opposite. I want all the information. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I really hate when doctors talk to each other like you're not in the room, and it's like, talk to me. I'm the one you guys are talking about.
Right. Like I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm still here, guys.
Yeah.
Was it also life-threatening at that time?
Yeah.
Like if they didn't do something,
Yes.
you potentially.
So they take 2 or 3 tissue samples, and then you have to sit there, and they go to a doctor, and then the doctor decides you need more tissue samples or you don't need more tissue samples. But like meanwhile, you're laying there for like 20, 30 minutes waiting for the doctor to make a decision. Luckily, I didn't need any more because actually the last one was really painful. So then I go back to my hospital bed. I'm just waiting, and I'm thinking, oh, it's probably not a big deal. You know, I'm so used to just like, oh, it's fine. Everything's fine. And a nephrologist comes in. He sits down and he looks at me and he's like, you have stage 4 kidney failure. He goes, it's probably due to lupus.
Oh my God.
And I remember he didn't have quite the nice bedside manner.
Really?
Yeah, because he said it and then just kind of left. And I like broke down for 20 minutes because like I knew that it wasn't a death sentence, but it felt like that in the moment. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so I just broke down for 20 minutes. The nurse was holding me. And then I remember like very distinctly after the 20 minutes that my brain just snapped and was like, all right, what's next? What are we doing? What does this mean? What do I have to do? Like, what's the next steps? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's a good thing for me mentally, but I kind of like just like smushed it down.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned to me earlier this week that you have a very little fear of death.
Yeah.
Is that something that happened to you, or is that a result of this news, or is this something that's been stuck with you like your entire life?
So it's kind of been something that was stuck with me my entire life, but it was never really thought about in such a way. So I didn't like I said, I always knew that like you live and then you pass, and that's the way of life, and that's the way it is. But I never really like thought about it concretely because you're young, you don't think about death. But I think that really helped when this happened because I was able to say, you know, okay, if something happens, you know, I'm ready. I'm ready for that. Which is such a weird thing to think about when you're 23. You know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
And like I said, I don't know if this is good for me mentally, like if that's good news or not.
I mean, I guess it's better than the alternative, which is just complete, like you're like, what are these, like the denial stage?
Yeah,
and then the grieving
anger,
yeah, right.
Bargaining.
Sure.
And then finally acceptance. Yeah. No, I was able to just compartmentalize, stick it in the back, and then say, okay, this is my new normal. What are we doing? So it worked out really well. And then they said, okay, so you're stage 4. You're going to get a nephrologist. You're going to start doing checkups, and he's going to tell you what to do next. So over the next couple months, this happened. I was diagnosed in June of 2019. By September of that same year, I was on dialysis. Mm-hmm. I was like 1 point away from stage 5, which is when you start doing dialysis and start thinking about transplant. Mm-hmm. And by the time I was diagnosed, it was way too late to do really anything.
So when you need dialysis, that means that your kidney's basically doing nothing.
Yeah, it's dead, essentially. Like, I have 2 shriveled up little kidney beans in the back right now. They don't do anything.
And did they fail at the same time, or was one worse than the other?
I think they said that one was worse than the other, but they were pretty comparable to each other. Basically, they were just like, the scarring's too far gone. There's nothing we can do to fix this. We can't bring them back.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so they told you that this was most likely a result of lupus. Now, Can you explain a little bit about lupus and what that is?
Sure. Lupus is an autoimmune disease that attacks healthy cells. And I specifically have lupus nephritis.
Oh, you're good.
Lupus nephritis, this is kidneys. And I've actually always heard that like lupus attacks the kidneys first. So I guess in my situation that was true. And the only way to really deal with it is by immunosuppressants, which luckily is the same medication that you would use in order to keep a transplant alive. So they kind of even out.
Nice. Now, do you know if lupus is like a genetic disease, or if it is it something that you maybe had out your entire life and you weren't sure about it, or?
Yeah, so it does tend to run in families. It's more prominent in women, and especially Hispanic women. But it was really confusing for us because I don't have anyone in my family that has lupus, and it does tend to run in families.
Doesn't Selena Gomez have lupus?
She does, and she did get a kidney.
Wow,
from her best friend.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know what? I did know that.
I didn't
I
know.
totally forgot.
And I think her name, not Sarah Paulson, Sarah something, the girl from Modern Family, one of the daughters. She had two transplants actually. The first one failed.
I did know that. Wow.
Which is two. Yeah.
So is there like a percentage of people who have lupus that will is it almost like a guarantee that you'll need it at some point, or if you catch it early enough and you're using suppressants that you can kind of kick the bucket
I
down the road?
couldn't answer that question, but I genuinely think that if it were caught in time, you could like manage it. You probably end up in like stage 1 or 2.
Sure.
But at that point, there's so much you can do to keep it from getting worse. When you're at stage 4,
Right.
not a lot of options.
And you found out that you had lupus at that time too.
Yeah,
You
yeah, I
didn't
had
know
no idea.
Anything, right?
Yeah, and it was actually I get all these when I found out, and I told people my story at the hospital because you get admitted and you have to repeat yourself all the time. Somebody actually said to me, "Oh, you didn't know?" I was like, "No, I didn't know. I would have done something."
Not a doctor.
I don't understand why you're asking me like that.
So there weren't any other signs before those initial triggering moments that led you to the hospital?
None that would reflect kidney disease. Like I would wake up sometimes with like swollen parts on my face, but it looked like I had gotten punched and it was just really swollen for whatever reason in that area, which is not indicative. Like while swelling is indicative of kidney failure, swelling like that isn't indicative of kidney failure. It's typically in your ankles and in your like the lids up here. So things like that. And it's funny, I didn't actually start swelling like that until I was diagnosed and on medication.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that whole time you were having some weird symptoms, like the food, the swelling. When you would go to the doctor, or the ER, and then they would say you're fine, you'd go home. Was that a relief to you every time?
No, it was incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, you were frustrated, thinking there's something wrong.
Yeah, and no one's paying attention to me. No one's listening to me, and something's wrong. And it is frustrating because you're not feeling seen by someone who should really take you seriously and make you feel seen.
Do you think they should have taken these initial biopsies a little bit sooner?
Bare minimum, they should have looked at my blood results. I mean, like a simple blood test would tell you that something's wrong.
They didn't take a blood test when you went to the ER?
They do, but they weren't paying attention.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, after I got diagnosed, my mom went through my records because like I was still going into the hospital, so I had records. And she found on one of the records at the very bottom of a page, it said like kidney function declining, and no one said a word.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
No one said a word to me. And
That's
it
got
was
to be
like,
incredibly frustrating.
yeah, it was because it basically not only is my body giving up on me, but the people who were supposed to basically protect me also gave up on me.
Wow. So it took that one nurse from FSU. Do you credit her for saving your life?
100%. I actually called her after I got diagnosed and was told I was getting dialysis. I called her and I said, thank you. And she's like, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Without you, I probably wouldn't have this opportunity. I would just have died because no one was listening to me. And she was like, yeah, I remember, like, because I called her a few months later and I was like, I don't know if you remember who I am. She was like, I know exactly who you are. I was like, I just wanted to say thank you. Like, you saved my life. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So walk me through the severity of this. So when they finally let you go home after that initial news, did they say like you would have died a week later, or is there any kind of can you speculate a little bit on like the timeline of how bad it could have gotten?
It could have gotten pretty bad within a month.
Yeah.
Or two. I distinctly remember that by the time they were like, you need a port put in for peritoneal dialysis, and I'll explain that a little bit later. I couldn't get into a surgeon to get it put in, and I finally got a hold of a surgeon, and I told him my situation. He's like, you should have gotten this like 2 weeks ago. Like, you need to come in. And he fit me in that same week and was like, you need this. And so I think it's just a whole fault on the entire system.
You couldn't see a surgeon? This wasn't during COVID yet, right?
No, it was during Tallahassee. And like, so what happens is my nephrologist recommended a specific surgeon for the specific thing. We couldn't get a hold of him. But I'd like call to make an appointment, and it was always like, oh, we'll call you back. No one's answering. no one's paying attention. So we reached out to a different surgeon at a different hospital, and he was like, yeah, come in right now, immediately.
Wow.
I don't understand what's going on. I don't know why you didn't have this 2 weeks ago. You need this
so
now.
fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So avoid going to the ER in Tallahassee.
100%.
The next city over, maybe. Holy
drive
shit.
to Gainesville. Honestly, it's worth it. Just drive to
They have
to
some pretty
Gainesville.
incredible medical facilities.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I have a family member who works there. He's an autoimmune specialist there, actually.
Oh, so that's right up what you were.
Yep.
Yeah. So he knew a bunch of what
Yeah.
you were going through then. Yeah. Huh.
So
Okay.
I gotta imagine. I hope this doesn't come off insensitive or anything, but normally when I'm looking at getting a procedure or whatever for minor medical issues, I'm really thinking about the cost and what insurance will cover and where I'm going and things like that. Was that at all a concern to you at that time, or were you just like
not at that time? It was about staying alive. I'm still paying off those bills because you're technically not entitled to the insurance that the government will provide until you are officially on dialysis. So in order to get the procedure to get on dialysis, you have to pay for that, which is something else
sense.
entirely.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So I'm still paying those off years later,
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's really frustrating.
Yeah.
So the next step is dialysis, right?
Yes.
So walk us through that. What's that like?
So there are two main dialysis possibilities. One is hemo, so that's the blood, and you have a few options there. You can get a port in your chest, which I had for a little while. You can get a port here in the arm, so it's a little bit easier. Or you can do peritoneal dialysis, which is what I did. It fit my situation a little better because I was still going to school and working during this time.
Jesus. Where'd you work?
The bookstore.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked in the technology department.
Nice. Well, well, he did too.
I got him
Logan.
the job.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see how this is working
I always
now.
wondered how he got a job.
Somebody is dating the boss.
Yeah,
man.
pretty much.
So you're working, you're going to school. I can't imagine. That's crazy to think that I just reminiscing of my college years, that would have been incredibly stressful to have to do exams, buy books,
Yeah.
worry about medical bills on top of
I mean,
that.
well,
and
that was the
stress
main
of-
reason for working. It's like I have to pay bills. I had to pay rent. I had to pay for school. I had to do all those things. And I actually, it was hard because actually before my diagnosis, when I was really sick and no one could tell me what was going on, I actually failed like 3 of my classes because I just couldn't function. But I couldn't get them reversed or forgiven because I didn't have an actual doctor saying what was wrong with me. So they basically told me I was SOL
Wow.
for that entire semester.
You couldn't go back and they couldn't retro
I
fix
tried.
it?
What?
Really?
Yeah, I did try.
What the actual fuck?
Yeah. After I got the diagnosis, I
insane.
went to my dean and I was like, can we fix this? And she was like, no. Or he was like, no.
Jesus Christ.
Come on.
Shame.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So peritoneal dialysis, that's typically in your belly and you get a nice little tube. And you can do that at home, which was like the big thing for me. I could do it while I was sleeping. And it's this, in my situation, it was this giant machine with these giant bags of dextrose, which is just sugar water. And you have different levels of sugar in the water. So what the sugar does is actually pull out the toxins that are in your body. So you basically have this tube that goes in your stomach and just sits there in your stomach. And
You're
it,
like a robot.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
kind of like a
Pretty dope.
robot. Actually, the
Cyborg.
bottom of the tube was titanium, so I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like fucking android.
Hook me up, bro. You're hooked directly into the metaverse now.
Yeah. And so you'd hook up to the machine and you'd use a specific bag depending on if you were overweight, underweight, because your weight fluctuates so heavily with the amount of fluid that's still in you because your kidneys aren't filtering it out. So you would have to really self-regulate and figure out what was best for you. Obviously, they train you on all of this, but it took me a really long time to actually get a hold of and do it correctly.
Would you feel sick if you didn't do it correctly?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
Really?
was
So that was
sick
the
and I was
result.
swollen and it was not a fun time. And if you overcorrect, it's also not good because your blood pressure drops, you're dehydrated, So it's this really perfect balance that you have to aim for, and it can be really difficult.
How quickly do you see like negative effects if you get it out of whack?
Almost immediately.
Really?
It's like the next. So I would do it at night. It was like the next day. I knew if I did it wrong.
Wow.
And it was all night. It was like 9 hours every single night. So I did it all night, and it was absolutely excruciating. Like, it was the worst pain, because essentially you have this tube just kind of floating in your body. And so what it does is the machine puts a bunch of the dextrose in you. You sit for about an hour while it like pulls the toxins, and then it sucks out the liquid again. And that cycle goes on all night. But when it's sucking out and there's no more liquid, it's like sucking on the top of your stomach, basically, like your skin up here, and it's just sucking and rubbing like this. Horrendous. Like, it's absolutely incredibly painful. And especially for me, because you're actually supposed to get the surgery, get the tube installed, and then wait like 2 or 3 weeks for it to heal. I didn't have that luxury. I started the night after.
They were like, no, you need to do this immediately.
Yep.
Jesus.
You know, one time I had to sleep for a night with a tube going through my nose into my stomach.
Yeah.
And now I feel like a little bitch because I complained about it so much.
No, I think that's incredibly uncomfortable too.
But that sounds insane. You had to do that for like how long?
Almost just shy of a year, probably.
Wow. Every single night.
Every night. Yeah. 100%.
And did you have to like refill the bags, and how does that
Yeah,
all
it was
work?
really intense. So you set up the bags for the night. You didn't really have to like refill them during the night, but every day you would put in a new bag. And actually it's kind of gross because all of the liquid that comes out of you gets into this big bucket. I don't know if Logan told you about it. It just sits in this giant bucket and it smells so bad. It's basically your pee because you're not peeing.
Does it look like pee?
No.
Oh.
No, it does have a color to it, but it doesn't look like pee.
Right.
But it smells rancid.
Oh man.
And so in my situation, because a lot of times, if you have the ability, you can just run the tubing into the toilet, and then it can just automatically go in the toilet, and you flush it in the morning, and you're fine. I wasn't able to do that just because of where my bathroom was located. So it's just in this bucket, and then it. Like in the morning, you have to dump it out, and you like smell all of it. It's so bad. It was so gross.
PTSD.
Yeah, it was rough. It was really bad.
Jeez.
Could you not move either, or could you roll around?
No, you really had to stay still, because if you bent the tube at any point, the machine like yells at you and wakes you up.
Like an alarm type of beeping?
Oh, yeah, absolutely obnoxious.
So
and I had a lot of problems with it. Like, it just wouldn't take correctly. It would get stuck. It was just kind of a pain. And I finally got fed up, and I was like, something's wrong. I called the company, and I'm like, it's making a noise, bullshitting. Give me another one. I got the new machine. I never had a problem. It wasn't painful anymore. I never had a problem since. Like, it was perfect. But I remember like distinctly being in so much pain. And the nurse that I had, my dialysis nurse, was like, yeah, unfortunately, like, pain for the first couple months is really normal. He's like, I've seen like 200 pounds, 6'7" guys cry like babies because it's so painful.
Yep.
And I was like, this doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
So it took me a lot longer than I would have really liked to realize that something was wrong with the machine and not me. But eventually I did get it fixed, and I did was more comfortable with it, and I really got the hang of it. By the time I got the hang of it, I got the phone call that I had a kidney that matched me.
Whoa.
And I was able to go get one. And the process of getting on the donor list is absolutely asinine. It took me longer to get on the list than I was actually on the list.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Walk us through that.
Okay. So, when you go through the process of getting on the list, you got a lot of tests. You get like a bunch of blood tests to make sure that there's nothing else going on. You don't have any kind of cancers, anything like that. I got an echo of my heart to make sure that my heart was correct, like beating the way it should be. There's no issues there, because they want to basically make sure that if you are getting this organ, it's worth it.
So they order you with other people based on that? Or
Yeah.
is it even just to get on that list?
No, it's even just to get on the list.
Oh.
And then they order you based on your likelihood of survival after receiving that kidney. Now, because I was so young, it worked out, and I was able to get it, I think less than a month. Wow. But actually getting on the list was really hard, because in my case, they weren't really specific about what I needed to get on. They were like, oh, you don't have this, and if you don't have this test within the next 2 weeks, we're just going to stop your application. And I was like, nobody told me I needed that. So I was running back and forth, getting these tests, getting what I needed, you know, everything like that just to get on. Luckily, everyone was really understanding about my situation. They were like, yeah, come in, it's fine. But I would hate to think if I was in a position where I couldn't get a hold of these people, you know, and luckily my old roommate in college has Crohn's. And so that's also an autoimmune disease. So she's like, go to my PCP. He's amazing. I love him. I wish I could like bring him with me everywhere. He's the best doctor I've ever had in my life.
Was that in Gainesville or where was that?
That was in Tallahassee. Yeah, he was fantastic.
So there are good doctors in Tallahassee.
There's a few. Yeah.
The only reason I got in was because of her. She worked for him, and he wasn't taking in new patients.
No shit.
And so she put in a word for me, and I got lucky. Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder why it's so hectic like that. And they're not. I mean, it's like if you don't get this test done by this time, then
yeah, it's not a good system. You're supposed to have a social worker to help you do all that, but she didn't. She just didn't do any of that. She's like, "Oh, so how's this going? Did you do this yet?" And I was like, "This is your job."
Yeah.
Like and I kept saying this even after the transplant. I was like, if I'm old or senile or whatever, I'd be dead. And
Yeah.
because
Seriously.
of how poor the system is.
Totally.
And the kidney is like the most requested organ. That's the longest list to be on.
How long is the list? Do you know any
I don't know,
numbers
but
like
they do
that?
tell you that it takes an average of 3 to 5 years before you could get a kidney of being on the list. Yeah, that's the first thing they say to you. Don't, be prepared to wait.
Wow.
Did your doctor say that you could last that long as you did dialysis?
I have much better chances again because I'm younger.
Yeah.
But a lot of people die waiting.
Right.
And is that by state or is it a national?
No, it's
list?
a national registry.
So sorry.
It's okay. It's also kind of based on the hospital and where you apply. Like I got rejected at Gainesville, but I got admitted at Miami because Tallahassee doesn't have a transplant program.
So is it based on your proximity too, because of how much time they have in order from like the point of actually getting the organ ready to like needing to get you into surgery?
Yeah, that's a huge factor actually because you only have so many hours.
Mm-hmm.
It actually happened the first time I got the call. I wasn't going to be there because I was in Tallahassee and I wasn't going to be in Miami in time, and they were like, then we're just going to go to the next person.
Mm-hmm. What did that feel like, getting that call? Did you feel like you won the lottery?
No. I'm very much somebody who does not get excited for anything until it's in front of me.
So you're like, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually remember Logan got really mad at me. He's like, why aren't you excited? And I was like, because it hasn't happened yet. And then when that phone call came back and they were like, you're not going to make it in time, we're going to move on, I was like, yeah. I was prepared for this.
Why do you think it didn't take as long? Like, were you expecting a call that soon?
No. Oh, God, no.
Like,
I was expecting another 5 years, which, to be frank, I don't think I was going to make that.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
It was just a really bad time in my life. It was COVID was starting.
Yeah, that's even crazier.
Yeah.
The story is that you got diagnosed in 19, and then all of a sudden the world starts falling apart. And
There's a virus that's out there that's like, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
more importantly is it's the world's falling apart that's centered around basically just the healthcare system, which is what you're relying on the healthcare system to survive.
Yeah, and I'm like the person who, if I get COVID, like I'm not living through it.
Yeah.
I'm not a healthy college kid or younger person. If I get it, I'm done. You know what I mean?
So when COVID hit, how did that affect your mental health in terms of did you become more afraid, or were you like terrified to go outside, or?
Not really. We obviously made sure not to go outside or do anything, but I think I was so focused on the side effects of dialysis and lupus and the kidney disease that I just kind of almost forgot about COVID, because that's what was affecting me the most. I could not sleep. I was in constant pain. My skin was like on fire. It was this horrible burning, itching sensation that would not stop. I actually had welts on my back from the itching. It was really horrible.
So yeah, you weren't thinking about, oh, I'm gonna take this vacation and travel, because like you're tied to this machine
Yeah.
basically, and
Yeah.
wherever you go, that machine has to follow.
Yeah, you almost did take a vacation
did.
to come see Sarah and me in Boston, and I remember that was a whole thing, having to bring the machine, and just having to do it, and then you guys were coming in like March or April or something.
I don't remember.
and
It was right around the time the world was
Like
all
it hit
falling
its
apart.
peak.
Yeah.
Like it's hit its peak, and the world's like, no, we're
Yeah.
done. Like we're
Right.
shutting everything down.
Yeah.
And Logan and I talked about it. We were like, I don't think you guys could come.
Yeah.
That's just too dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, it's I know some people do travel with the dialysis machine who do peritoneal. I don't know how they do it. It was horrible. That machine is so heavy and awkward and bulky, and I would have had to bring it on with me on the airplane. And then all of the supplies, so like the dextrose, the tubing, the caps, the antibacterial supplies, because there's some serious antibacterial stuff that they give you to make sure that you don't have it, because it is technically an open wound.
Yeah. So you're having to treat it constantly, basically.
You have to keep it so clean. You have to constantly change the gauze that you have with it. If you pull it too tight, it can come out, which happened to me a few times actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
what? You had to put it back in yourself?
Not not out, but like,
Oh.
so it pulls a little, and so the skin on the inside comes out.
Ooh.
And it happened to me a few times.
Did it hurt, or is it
Oh,
just weird?
it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
But my pain tolerance is relatively
I
high.
could imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez, if you weren't, then that sounds like even more of a... Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure you also gained a little bit more tolerance, too, of
Yeah.
having to keep doing that every
Yeah.
single fucking night.
Yeah. So it was just a really bad pain, and you had to like get all that supply shipped to wherever you were going, and that's really heavy. So it's really expensive through the insurance. It was a mess, and so we were like, it's not worth the hassle at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was really frustrating, because I was really looking forward to getting anywhere that wasn't my house and my bed,
Right.
because I spent the majority of my time in my bed, and that can't be fun for anyone.
Yeah.
So, it really was unfortunate.
Yeah.
So you get the first call,
Mm-hmm.
and then you find out... I remember getting that text from Logan. He texted the entire family, like, Angie got a donor. She got the call. We're packing everything up, blah, blah, blah. So what happens after that?
We raced down to Orlando, and my mom met us in Orlando, and then she raced down all the way. And luckily, because we called and we were like, look, I'm in Tallahassee. Like, am I going to make it? And they were like, yeah, you're fine, actually. And so what I later found out was that it was because it was someone who was in a coma and wasn't going to come out of that coma. And so they waited for me to check into the hospital to finally let him pass on, so that I wouldn't have to worry about
Wow.
the kid. Yeah.
That's
I got
crazy.
really lucky. Like, I
Yeah.
just kept getting lucky.
So this is the one you got.
Yeah, this
Okay,
is the
so
one
you
I
were
got.
still in Tallahassee
Yeah.
for the second.
Yeah.
Wow. And how much time had passed? Remind me, because I'm trying to remember from the first call where they told you basically...
A week.
A week.
A week.
Wow.
I wasn't,
What?
yeah, no joke. I was not expecting another one so quickly.
Some luck.
Yeah, I know.
Somebody's looking after you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Logan does work for the government.
Interesting. Interesting.
no, yeah, I was not prepared for another one so soon. And
Yeah.
I got put on dialysis in September, and I had my kidney I think it was like July 20th, 2020.
Wow.
So,
Almost just shy of a year.
yeah, it was really quick. And-
That's crazy.
And the majority of that year was literally just getting on the list.
So you
It's
get
such a
checked in.
pain.
When does it hit you? Because you mentioned until it's happening, you're doubtful
Yeah.
or whatever. What's going through your head when you get to the hospital?
Nothing. I blanked.
Really?
Yeah. I remember getting there, and I was cold.
In July?
Hospitals
In
are always
Miami?
cold.
What the?
That's why you always get in the OR? No, the pre-op.
Pre-op,
room.
yeah.
And they're like, "Do you want a warm blanket?"
I'm like, yes, give me 3. Yeah, they shoved a stick up my nose to make sure I didn't have COVID, which I had to do constantly. Oh my God, I had like 4 or 5 tests.
Oh yeah, that's got to be weird because it's COVID and nobody can go with you, right?
Correct. I
They
was
weren't
by
letting
myself.
anybody.
Nope.
That's got to be terrifying.
Yeah, it was not a good time. I actually still have pretty severe PTSD from that whole experience after the transplant. It was really rough.
Really?
Yeah.
What, if you had COVID?
They wouldn't have operated on me.
Really?
Yeah, they would have sent me home.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
or they
but-
could like put extra gloves on or something.
I wonder if that's still the protocol now that they know a little bit more about COVID.
I would imagine. I don't know.
With
I don't know.
vaccinations and stuff.
Yeah, vaccination. Maybe if
Yeah.
you're vaccinated and you had COVID or something. I don't know. Low rate of transmission.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
No,
So
it's
you
okay.
get checked in the pre-op.
I get checked in. I don't even think I changed into a gown or anything. Like I just got rolled. They were like, "You're gonna have your." I got there at midnight. I waited, took a nap, and they're like, "All right, your surgery is scheduled for 8 a.m." At 8 a.m., they came in, like rolled me out of my room. I just remember being put on like this like very cold steel slab. There was music.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What music?
I don't remember
Okay.
at all. And I just remember telling the guy, I was like, I'm freezing. And he's like, I know. And he like strapped my arms down. It was basically like a little cross type thing.
Whoa.
And then blacked out. Nothing.
because
Because
you don't remember,
they put
or
me
the-
under.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. They have you count down and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. I woke up in so much pain. It was like I had gotten run over by a truck and then he backed up and did it again.
Mhm.
Like it was horrible.
Describe, like, was it in the kidney region? Was it all over? What?
It was everything. It was
Really?
all of it. And you know, like you just got cut open and your insides were moved around. Like, you know what I mean? So I have this like huge scar, which I don't mind. I dig scars. I think they're fucking cool. But from like about my belly button all the way down to like the top of my like pelvic area, it's a huge like thing, like this big.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I like almost immediately felt like there was something where it shouldn't have been because your kidney's not supposed to go there.
Yeah.
And
Because they didn't replace it.
no, they don't remove kidneys in transplants. It's dangerous to remove a kidney. It's more dangerous to remove a kidney than it is to put one in. So I have
I
3
didn't know
kidneys
that.
right now, technically.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You're a superhuman.
Yeah, and like I immediately was like, there's not supposed to be something there, and there's something there. It was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you know, I had a tube to go pee and I like couldn't move and it was
Yeah.
horrible. I actually it might be a little TMI, but I actually ended up on my period, so I just like sit in my own
Yeah.
blood because they
Oh.
were like, you can't move, you can't get up, you
That's
can't do
terrible.
anything. And I remember like crying because I was like, please just let me go, like take the fucking thing out of me. I want to go pee by myself. Like I want to clean up. And they were like, we literally can't take it out until like 5 days after the surgery.
Isn't that, no, never mind. I was just thinking of something else, but I can't imagine. I mean, that sounds mentally, physically
Horrible,
exhausting.
Yeah.
Because we-
And I'm by myself. There's nobody there like that I know, that I trust. And then so you get the transplant, but your kidney doesn't wake up right away. So a lot of people don't know that it's not instantaneous. You have to wait a while. And so what happened was I got put on hemodialysis, like the blood version of dialysis. They put a temporary catheter here in my neck. And then when they decided that I was going to need something a little more permanent for a while, they put it in my chest. And I was awake for all of that.
Wow.
And I distinctly remember actually when they put this one in, they didn't take this one out. And I was sitting in recovery and the doctor came in and he's like, why didn't they take this one out? I don't understand. And the nurse, like the head of recovery nurse, was like, well, you have to wait for another OR. Like you have to schedule another surgery to remove it. And he was like, no, I'm doing it bedside. That's so stupid. She's already doped up. She's not going to feel anything. He's like, I'm doing it here. And they got into a screaming match.
Jesus, this
And
is like
he-
an episode of Chicago Med. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And so I was like, I remember all of it. And I'm still kind of out of it, but I remember all of it. And he's like, I'm doing it here. You can report me if you want, but this is fucking stupid to just sit here and have to do this all over again. And so he took it out right there.
It's like a crazy nightmare.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. And so then I did dialysis there for like 3 or 4 more times in the hospital, and then only 1 more time outside of the hospital, which is like really good. Really, really
So
good.
your kidney started to wake up. Your new kidney started to wake up, and it started to do its job.
Yeah. And it took a little while. I distinctly remember. So remember how I mentioned my skin was like really painful? Taking a shower was absolutely excruciating. It was like being set on fire.
Oh my god!
And I remember leaving the hospital, and all I wanted was a shower, but I knew that it was going to be torturous. And so when I finally, like, my mom had to help me get in the shower and get a shower, I was screaming and crying bloody murder. Like, it was horrendous. I just, like, I wanted to be clean, but I also wanted to get out so bad because it was such a horrible feeling.
That's wild.
So it was
Yeah.
your skin was just so sensitive to the touch.
Yeah.
So no matter, even if you like rubbed it with like a wipe or something,
Yeah,
it
I
was
felt
just, like,
so
on
bad because
fire.
like Logan would try to comfort me, and I was like, "You can't touch me.
Yeah.
It hurts. You cannot touch me."
So how long were you in the hospital for until you were let go?
8 days.
8 days by yourself
Yeah.
with strangers where you couldn't even see their face probably.
Yeah, not really.
Feeling horrible, nasty.
Just
It's crazy because when I found out that you were getting that transplant, what I would have imagined, what I probably imagined was, oh, that's awesome. She's going to be so happy
Yeah.
after, right? And it's really like this horrible nightmare.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
it was horrible. Luckily, my grandma is a retired nurse. And so I was able to stay with her, and she was able to really take care of me. But that first month was so hard because, you know, I can't walk or stand up straight. There's a lot of things I still can't eat. You know, I'm not comfortable. It was really hard. And slowly, you know, you obviously get better and you start to heal and you start to feel better. But I still had severe like symptoms after the fact. My skin still hurt so much. It went from an itching to like a real genuine burn. And I got put on nerve pain meds, also epilepsy meds,
Whoa.
just to stop the pain.
And how long were you taking those for?
6 to 8 months.
Wow.
I'm finally off of them, but it was a while.
What was the epilepsy?
Gabapentin.
And it was for pain?
Yeah. So it's an epilepsy medication, but it's also used to treat like nerve pain, which is what they attributed it to, and it worked. So I didn't care what it was. I just took it because it meant I could finally sleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Right.
laying down was horrible. It was, like, all over my back was on fire, and then I had like restless leg syndrome because I was constantly kicking.
Yeah.
It was just I didn't sleep for months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were in the hospital for that period of time, would you watch TV?
No, I slept the whole time.
Oh, so you were able to actually sleep sometime?
Yeah, well, they gave me drugs.
Right.
And
so you were like numbed.
Yeah, I
You
was
were
numb.
fucked up.
No, it was great. They were great drugs.
I bet they were. I bet they were.
like
They
That's-
were
That's the
fantastic.
strongest stuff you can get is in a hospital, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It was so
Yeah.
good because they made me sleepy and I could just sleep through it all.
I bet
Totally.
it felt amazing.
Yeah, it was great to, 1, finally get some sleep, and 2, not be in pain.
Were you having some like trippy ass dreams?
I didn't dream at all.
Really?
No.
Okay. All right.
It was like being put under again
Yeah,
every time.
pretty much. And I was
Wow.
definitely okay with it.
Did you ever wake up and just think at any of the times you would wake up while you were there and just think, is this real? Am I alive?
Yeah, and it was kind of like it would go in like waves. It'd be like, oh, this is happening, okay, and then it was like, fuck, this is happening. It wasn't. It was like, oh, okay, and then downhill, like, fuck, I'm here. You know, this is all going on.
So the new kidney's in, you get out of the hospital, you're being taken care of by your grandma who's an ex-nurse. And you're probably going back to the doctor to do routine tests and stuff.
Yeah.
What are they starting to tell you about the status of your kidney?
You know, it's looking good, you know, and I'm getting, so what happens is you end up with a transplant team through the hospital, and then you have a separate nephrologist. So everyone's getting the same information, but it's so funny how you get completely different point of views from people, you know, from the hospital. I'm hearing, oh, it's so great. It's perfect. It was a great match. It'll last you like 30 years, which is really rare. Like I'm fully prepared to have to do this all over again in about 20 years.
So you'll have to be put on another list again?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Kidneys typically I mean, they're getting better. Medicine's getting better, obviously.
I'd like to be charitable and optimistic that in 30 years they'll have like some kind of artificial kidney in
For
place.
sure.
Yeah.
Or
Your chances are pretty good.
Yeah,
I feel
that's
like.
what I keep telling myself.
Yeah.
But I'm also fully prepared to do this all over again because it is a real likelihood. A lot of people really only last 10 to 12 years and then they
Wow.
have to do it over. And you know, when you're older, that's a lot of time. But when you're 25, that's not enough time.
Yeah.
so when they're deciding whether they can use a kidney, do they think about this like, oh, this one will only probably last 5 years, so to put someone through this in another 5 years, maybe not worth it?
So they're actually changing the way they do it because it used to be where if it wasn't absolutely perfect, they wouldn't use it, even if the patient was in their 80s and really only needed another 5 years. You know what I mean? And now they're changing it to where they, you know, if it's enough to give them 5 or 10 years, they'll do it depending on the patient. You know what I mean? Like, so
Makes
someone in
sense.
my case who's younger, they're going to want the perfect kidney.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, or a lot of I think the mindset has changed into giving them enough time to live a happy enough lifestyle and say goodbye almost. You know what I mean?
Wow. Now, why do you think the kidney that you received was so robust, for lack of a better word?
Because he was only 30.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's the defining factor.
Yeah. He
is
was
age.
so young.
And he probably didn't drink or all that nasty shit.
No diabetes, no
Yep.
underlying health issues.
And that's probably one of the huge troubles of getting the perfect kidneys,
Yeah.
because they have to come from young people mostly.
Most of the time, yeah, if you want like a pristine kidney, they're gonna come from a younger person, just because age deteriorates all things. And it's not very likely that somebody passes away at a young age where they can also still use those parts and those pieces.
Now, did they give you details of this gentleman?
Not really, no. In some instances, like some people get to say thank you to the families, but this family didn't want to be notified, contacted, anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So,
Actually, the only reason I know what I do know is because it's in my file. No one told me anything.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Huh. And so finally you're up and walking now, and you're kind of in recovery mode. What do they tell you now how to change your lifestyle, or you can't eat certain things, or you should be eating, like what are they telling you now?
They're telling, like, hopefully their thought process is your life goes almost back to normal. You're really restricted when you're on dialysis, depending on what kind of dialysis you're on and what your situation is. Like, I know some people on dialysis can't really drink a lot of fluids. Like, they're like minimal, like a cup or two like a day, and that's it.
Really?
Luckily, I wasn't on that restriction because of it was on peritoneal, not hemo. But like there were so many foods I couldn't eat because there's so many restrictions. Like sodium is a really big one because salt retains fluid. Fluid is bad. Fluid ups the heart rate. Like at some points I had a heart rate up in the 200s. Like that's
Whoa.
yeah.
What'd that feel like?
Normal to me.
Really?
I was running on that for a really long time. I didn't know that there was something wrong. And so actually when they gave me meds to lower it, I felt like shit. I was like a zombie for a really long time.
Wow.
Yeah, and I would go in and the nurse would look at me like, we're admitting you because it's not so you could die. Like this is not supposed to be this high.
Sheesh.
Yeah. Yeah. But like sodium, I was on like a limit of under 1,500 milligrams a day. The average American does 3 to 35. Like, Campbell's ravioli is like 1,700 milligrams of sodium. That's
Yeah.
like more than my daily intake in a can.
So 1 can of soup.
Yeah.
Or ravioli.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then you could probably never eat food out,
No,
right?
no, it was
That's
always
full
home
of
cooked.
sodium.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think people realize how much sodium is in everything.
Oh, it totally is. And then the people who are like, I had a coworker and we got Chick-fil-A once, and he was sitting there with the nuggets, and he took like 6 packets of salt and sprinkled it all over the nuggets.
It hurts me when I watch people put salt on things.
I looked at him and I was like, Are you kidding me? Like, what did
No.
you do that
It's
for?
insane. And people are like, "Oh, it's fine. I don't put salt in my stuff." And you're like, "No, that's not how that
Yeah,
works."
that shit comes with salt, bro.
It's like if you're making it
Yeah.
from scratch.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah, and it's
unless
funny
you're
because
eating whole foods. then-
people really hate it because they're so used to the salt that they don't taste anything when they first start on that diet. And you really do have to learn how to cook using like spices and different kinds of things because you can't just rely on salt.
What was your favorite meal during that
Chicken.
chicken? Yeah, You know,
Spicy
stand by.
chicken.
Spicy chicken.
Spicy
Okay,
chicken.
you have a
Makes sense.
preferred spice? What is it? Just the chili pepper? You have a
I
hot
literally
sauce or-
no hot sauce. I literally was like, I think I did like a little bit of paprika and like chili flakes, and I was just like,
chili
get on there.
flakes. All right,
Because chili, any kind of hot sauce, that always really gives a lot of flavor.
Yeah,
it does.
yeah,
Yeah,
it does.
Mhm.
And it-
Without the ramifications of sodium or
Yeah.
all that bad shit that comes with like all
Yeah.
the other sauces that you buy. right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And like even the chicken, like I had to be really careful about my protein intake. Like I could only have about a palm size of protein a day. Like
Really?
it was like you're really restricted.
Did it take you a minute? I'm just saying that, tongue in cheek. Like, did it take you? How long did it take you to really adjust to that, or were you like, no, I have to? You dived right in and kind of.
I dived right in because there was a moment there where when I was still at stage 4 and he was like, if you can keep this number, you won't have to go on dialysis. Like if you can keep this number. I didn't keep the number.
Oh.
But in that moment, it was like, all right, low sodium everything. I was like, like in the hundreds
Yeah.
daily because it's what I could control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you got a new kidney. Check that off. All right. Now you lupus doesn't go away. You're
No.
stuck with it.
Yeah.
What does that mean for your lifestyle moving forward?
So a lot of times they'll say after the kidney it goes into remission. That's not necessarily true. What happens is the same medication that you use to keep the kidney alive is the same medication that you would use to suppress the lupus.
Gotcha.
So I'm on immunosuppressants, I'm on a steroid, I'm on
Yeah, I saw you were flexing earlier. I'm just kidding. I know that's not it. I'm just kidding.
That was the Steven joke.
Sorry, she laughed. So got him. No. Oh.
no, I'm on like I think it's like 10 different pills a day right now. And it's
Yeah.
just like standard. You know what I
Damn.
mean?
Yeah.
I hate
And-
taking pills.
I got used to I could not take pills for the life of me. You get used to it real freaking quick, let me tell you.
Yeah, I bet you
Do
do.
you take them dry now?
No, I'm not crazy.
What the hell, Miles? You psychopath. Take
thing
it dry.
I feel like if I did it one at a time, it wouldn't be so bad, but I tend to take them in bulk and it's like a little much.
Yeah,
You know what I
down
mean?
the
In
hatch.
bulk?
Yeah, all like the whole
You
thing
never
in
done
bulk.
that?
She takes 10 pills.
I feel
Yeah,
like
I've
I
taken
could,
a
I feel like
couple
it.
Just
pills.
relax the throat muscles.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can do
yeah,
it,
I'm
Miles.
sure you're used to it. Come on.
Oh, it's like the biggest pills are always the fish oil pills.
Yeah, they're so gross.
You
too.
should do the krill oil instead. They're like
Smaller.
smaller, yeah. But you take like 2 or 3 of them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're supposedly a better quality because a lot of fish oils are like apparently like bullshit quality or like
I've
they.
heard.
I
yeah.
believe that. I would believe that. Yeah.
Some of the little pills get stuck in my throat. If
Yeah.
I don't have enough water.
Well, I can't help you.
Yeah, I was gonna say drink some. Don't stop doing it dry. It's
I'm
not a
doing it
challenge.
dry. It'll get stuck, and then I have to keep drinking.
I mean,
and-
some people do it a lot of different ways. So they'll drink water and then like bend forward so that the pill rises to the top, and then they can swallow it. Like there's like many different ways to do it. People really
Yeah.
gotta like. There's a science to it almost.
Mhm.
But I'm also on stuff that like treats the side effects of the main pills that I'm on, and then
That's crazy.
and then
dude.
because I can't eat certain things still, I'm deficient in a lot of things, so I have to take them like vitamin D, iron, like a bunch of other stuff, just regular multivitamin, heartburn meds because the medication I'm on causes heartburn. So it's like
fuck.
really you're only taking like 3 or 4 pills to keep you alive, but the rest of them is to literally just offset everything
The
else.
symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like trying to
I've heard
balance
that.
out the
Yeah.
chemical in your body.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's intimidating.
It is. It is intimidating.
Do any of these have longer term side effects that that you have to be aware of?
Not really. to my knowledge, I did look it up. I know that certain combinations that are popular are like more likely to lead to diabetes down the road. There have been like studies on it, but I'm not on one of those combinations, so it's all good in the hood.
Nice. Nice.
But like you do have like certain pills that you can't take with other pills, so you like that's the other thing that you have to be cognizant of, and that's why I've said like if I was older, this wouldn't have gone as well because like older folks aren't really paying attention as much or just can't remember and aren't capable. Like if you take two certain pills together, it could have a really bad reaction or it like just doesn't work. It makes the other pill pretty much void. So it's like you're not getting everything that you need to get.
Yeah, and a lot of older people are taking a lot of other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
At the just
Arthritis, medication for their gout.
Yeah.
So do you have to get checkups on the kidney?
Yeah, so I do monthly blood tests, and they just kind of make sure that the number is where it should be, which I am.
Nice. Congratulations.
I'm like really anal about it. Like I'll check it before the doctor does, and I'll call my coordinator. I'm like, this number is too high. What do we do? What do I need to
Wait,
change?
how are you checking your blood?
Oh, I get the
tests?
updates. I get the results.
Oh, I thought you were like doing. Like,
Yeah,
a
I do it
home
myself. I got the
test.
centrifuge at home.
Yeah, I was like, damn, you're really committed to this. I underestimated you. Okay, I see. Yeah, because you get the results in your phone
yeah,
and stuff.
and so I'll like watch it. If there's any changes, I'll go in. Like I've had doctors tell me like, yeah, you're really on it, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm younger and I need this thing to last me a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. You'd not have to go through that whole situation again for a long time.
It was rough. And I mean, like, so I got my kidney in the summer. That fall, I went back to school and I like finished while I was still technically in recovery.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And I finally graduated.
What a fucking crazy couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple years, I guess.
Yeah.
Year and
I
a
mean,
half.
I had teachers like blow me off and not believe me. And they were like, you're not turning in your work. And I was like, do you need to see the tube in my stomach for you to like, I'm not being
Those
ridiculous.
teachers can fuck off. They're ruined because of other shitty people that are trying to take
so I have this
advantage
like one
of them.
specific. She was a fucking HTML prof. Like, you're not special.
She took the position with great power.
Yeah, I was like, you're not teaching a hard language. Like
Your
what?
introduction to programming language, basically. It's like the easiest one.
I know. And she was like, you haven't started this. And I remember I had gotten like really severe gout in my right hand, and I went to my PCP and I had a note and everything. And he was like, I don't know what that is. At first, he was like, yeah, it was really funny. He was like, oh, I think it's this. And then he walks out and he tells my roommate who worked for him. And I, of course, preface this, I gave him permission to talk about my stuff with her.
Yeah.
I don't want him getting in trouble.
Yeah.
He's like, I have no idea what that is. And so I like got an x-ray and whatever, and he figured it out. He's like, oh, it's gout. You need to take these pills. You'll be fine. But it was so painful. I couldn't move my hand, which obviously meant that I'm not doing any homework. I'm not doing work.
Especially if you have to type.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like
I had a headache. I wasn't doing my work. Just saying.
That's just called a hangover.
Yeah, I had a lot of those. Maybe that's why I was struggling.
Yeah, and I told her, I was like, I don't know when I'm regaining the use of my hand. I don't know how long this is going to take. And she's like, that's bullshit. And I like went to, and by now I was like already registered with the school and already had all the documentation that was required. And so I went and I was like, first of all, what she's doing is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, also, like, why are you putting me through this? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, it's so
why
shitty.
It's a power trip. That's all it fucking was. Like, she knew she was teaching a shitty language, and she felt the need to be important. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it, but at the same time, it's not everybody is faking it. Okay.
I mean, listen,
Deborah.
no, that's totally fair. I've seen people use their disability to their advantage in a way that's not necessary, and it really does fuck with the rest of the system.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, not just in the school system, but what you were telling us before with the healthcare system.
Yeah.
I mean, that's shameful and infuriating that nobody took you seriously when you went in initially into the healthcare system, and they were just like, oh, just another girl exaggerating about this, that, and the other.
Yeah. I was actually talking to one of my dialysis nurses, and her daughter was going to FSU, and didn't know she had celiac disease and was really sick. And they just kept telling her, you know, and it was really frustrating for me too, because they were like, oh, did you try this? Did you try that? I was like, yeah, I've cut dairy, I've cut the gluten, I've done all of these things. And so they did the same thing to her. And finally, you know, she got diagnosed, but it was like, it was frustrating. It's not uncommon. Like, that's a totally normal thing.
Yeah.
Especially in that area. And it's really frustrating.
Well, it's like with, I know a huge one is irritable bowel syndrome. People who have, it's just a term for you have something wrong with your intestines or stomach or whatever. So there's something wrong. They don't know.
Yeah.
It can be really frustrating because you'll go to the doctor, the hospital, and then they're just like, we can't, like, we just don't know. And we don't know what to do to find out.
Yeah.
Take some Tums.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like the same with women with endometriosis. And
What is that?
Basically, it's the cells that should be growing on the inside of your uterus grow on the outside, and it's exceptionally painful for women. It could be really debilitating and painful. They could bleed all the time. They could not bleed at all. It just really depends on the person. But unfortunately, a lot of these women get told, oh, period cramps are normal. Not to that extent. If you are bedridden, that's not normal. And people, and like women are told constantly, oh, it's normal, it's fine, you know, that's what it is. It's
Suck it up.
No.
Because I think that the doctors or whatever medical professional don't believe that the pain is as bad as it is.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Because
they're
and
exaggerating.
that's the natural. I mean, I think calling it a fallacy would be incorrect, but pain is subjective, right? You know, everybody's tolerance is different, so it's hard. There's a hard non-quantitative way to measure it, and so they're just going off of description and then, you know, blood tests and whatnot, and I can see how a doctor who has been doing this for years or decades of having a wide range of patients, from maybe some people who are actually maybe exaggerating it on one end, and then people like you who are having very real issues, and some way in the middle it all gets confused and muddled and muddy, and it gets misdiagnosed a lot of times.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason they came up with that smiley face system. I forgot what it's actually called. There's a real name for it, but you know, it's like, oh, how I feel based on my face. And a lot of people don't realize that 10, when the system was designed, isn't supposed to be like the most excruciating thing you've ever felt in your life, and that's what a lot of people attribute the 10 to. So they'll actually downplay how much pain they're in,
right?
Because they don't understand the scale.
Yeah, I think that can be a huge thing. Someone doesn't want to seem like they're complaining or make it seem, you know, yeah, it's painful. I have this problem. I have that problem. But is it really that big of a deal? If it was, the doctor would probably ask me about it.
Exactly.
We should look at what is that called? Because I'm actually curious. Can you look it up, the pain scale? And I want to see this chart. Because I remember seeing it. It's like on a level of 1 to 10.
And then you've got like a face that's kind of like,
You're typing in smiley face.
Yeah, that's what she called it.
Yeah, it's like the smiley face pain scale. I don't remember what it's actually called.
Is this what it looks like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when it was like originally designed, it's not supposed to be like my arm is chopped off. It's supposed to be like I am in pain and I'm coming to you and I'm talking about it. And it's turned into, like, I've even had nurses say, oh, number 10 is the worst pain you've ever felt. It's not necessarily correct.
So in this one here, it says worst pain
possible. Yeah, that's
so
part
I
of
would
the,
think
like,
though it's the worst pain possible, like that would be my arm was just cut off.
Right,
And
yeah.
is
yeah,
how it
and so like
feels.
that's different for everybody too. It's like the worst pain possible is like, okay, the worst pain possible for me to bear, not my arms cut off, you know. So that's another conversation. Like you have to think about like what people's levels are and how they interpret it.
That number 2, if I'm in mid pain, I'm definitely not smiling in the least bit.
I'm not in the, but see, for me, like I'm not in the ER if I'm in mid pain.
Totally true.
You know what I mean?
This guy looks like he's just like I'm
Moderate,
happy.
yeah, moderate pain still has a slight curve to his smile.
Severe is just like I don't want
to be here.
Severe pain is definitely for me a much more frowny face.
and you can only cry
Yeah.
when it's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, no crying aloud, baby.
I could see how people who are shy may not share much either.
Yeah. And you
Right.
also have to think about literacy, like health literacy too. Like
Yeah.
especially areas with like low just poverty rates, low help from government. Like health literacy is a big deal. People don't know
Sure.
when something's wrong with them because they just think, oh, it's normal.
People who didn't go to a pediatrician when they were younger.
Yeah.
Like they haven't been to a doctor.
Yeah.
They've been to an ER. That's
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, urgent care, ER. Yeah. So bizarre.
Yeah.
How bizarre.
That's something that I think race and whatnot is a big thing in healthcare too.
100%.
With
Yeah.
like vaccines, different medications, because some of those things historically have only been tested on certain groups of people. And
It creates a distrust.
Right.
100%. So, especially with the African American community, there's still a large level of distrust in the healthcare system. Like with the Tuskegee experiment, I can't pronounce it.
Yes.
What was
I
that?
think you said it right.
Tuskegee
Tuskegee.
experiment. Essentially, the government purposely infected African American males with syphilis and then didn't treat them, even though we've known, like at that point, had known for years that penicillin was the treatment. They purposely let them live because they just kind of wanted to see what would happen, and they purposely let them
Yeah.
impregnate women, infect women and children, just to see what would happen.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
And this was a government-sanctioned experiment.
it's a pretty shameful, horrific
Yeah.
part of our history.
Yeah, it is, and that's a large example of where the distrust comes from. And so when you have those minority populations, especially when they're below the poverty line, you grow up with, if you are not dying, you don't go in because we can't afford it, and you don't really trust the doctors to really do what's best for you.
Sure.
Yeah, and I can see like lower socioeconomic demographics. They're not exposed to doctors or healthcare system, so they don't know what to expect. They don't have this rapport, and so when something's wrong or you have something come up health wise, your way of approaching treatment is a lot different from somebody who's used to being in and out of the healthcare system, right?
Yeah.
So, it's totally a problem. And I think us as a country can do a lot better with how we communicate science, how we communicate healthcare or health treatment. Even just like the last 2 years with this COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk for hours about the pitfalls and the failures of our government and healthcare officials communicating things that were wrong or maybe misguided at the very least, and in just seeing the backlash of the COVID vaccine, and just seeing how distrustful the American people are. I mean, that's got to be that's a clear problem.
Yeah.
Like, when science prevails and there's such big divide between us, that's a problem, right? So communication of science and transparency.
Yeah, and I think
is
just
key.
like literacy, like
Yeah.
making sure people understand what you're presenting to them. Like a big, what creates this big distrust, or not distrust, but like apprehension between patients as doctors. Doctors don't talk to patients as people. They don't use layman's terms. They use medical terms, and the patient's sitting there going, I don't know what any of this means. And not a lot of people will go the step further and look it up and figure out what that means, and whatever, because they think the doctor's going to do that for them. And a lot of times that they don't. Either the doctor's overworked, doesn't have time, or is just too used to the environment to care almost. It's really sad.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with being overworked or seeing too
Yeah.
many patients. If you think, anytime I've gone to the doctor, I probably don't spend more than 15 minutes with them, probably at most. And then a lot of times you could also, it may not even be a doctor, it could be an RN or physician's assistant, which is fine. But you may not even they may not even be hearing what they need to hear
Yeah.
For them to treat you. And then, like you said, with how they communicate with you, sometimes, at least in my experience, it's been they don't explain things, and then I'm kind of nervous if they completely understood my situation.
Mhm.
Did they make assumptions about me because of my age, or because of being a skinnier person, or whatever it is, and so that's created some distrust for me with certain doctors I've been to.
Yeah.
Hashtag skinny problems.
Skinny problems.
Well, it's the same argument with larger people, because a lot of times doctors will say, "Oh, all of this is attributed to your weight," when
Right.
when in fact it's the weight is a symptom, not a cause. But people are often overlooked because doctors will just say, "It's your weight. You need to lose weight. You need to lose weight."
Yeah, because I think they're often trained to look at signs like that, and because they don't get to spend a lot of time with you because of how our healthcare system is, it's you got to see 20 patients a day or 30
Yeah.
patients a day. There's lots of paperwork and whatnot, so I don't think we're trying to blame the doctors.
No, definitely not.
But the system and how our how that works. But I think they're trained like that. It's like, okay, it's a woman. They're within this age group, they're this ethnicity.
Yeah.
So that kind of narrows down these things, even though there's still a percentage of a chance that it's something else.
Yeah.
But they're probably not going to test you for that.
Yeah,
because it's going to be expensive.
it's not normal.
Right.
It's not common or anything else. Yeah, I was actually in the health informatics program at FSU. So like, there's people are trying to create options for doctors to make it so that they can do the filing and the updating of the records quickly so that they can interact with the patients longer. But then you come into this problem where the older doctors don't want to learn how to use this new stuff. So rather than learn, they just retire, or the system is backlogged or anything like that.
They say no, right?
Yeah.
Like, medical chiefs at hospitals and stuff can literally just say, I don't want
to do that. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
And then-
hospital will listen.
Or they gain more time because they're able to file things more quickly, but instead of increasing the amount of time they're spending with patients, they just influx more patients.
Yeah.
Because,
The health insurance companies
Exactly.
they
Yeah.
pay out less because it's taking
Yeah.
less time.
you're not going to the practice or the hospital isn't going to increase profitability when they spend when they spend more time with patients, is if how many people they can get through their door. And that's a real problem, right?
It is a real problem.
And it's an unfortunate side effect of the capitalistic market of private healthcare system.
It is,
right?
because rather than having preventative care to keep the numbers of people in a hospital lower, we have a lot of reactionary care.
That's right. And that's like, and a lot of people have that problem with, how COVID's been handled. It's been a lot of like, do this and to get people, stop people from overwhelming the healthcare system, instead of like giving us a treatment option and allowing us to seek treatment at home. It's like, it's no, we're gonna sell you this like vaccine or whatever,
Oh, yeah.
So
I see in the news all the time. It's like, oh, Moderna's stock projected to increase because COVID is increasing,
Yeah.
right? Like that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about Moderna and Pfizer and whoever else stock price going up because they are able to sell more vaccines.
Yeah. They were
Yeah.
able to get it out the quickest, and they're the most effective.
Right.
And everything's like that.
This shouldn't be part of the topic, because then it makes you wonder, okay, one of the companies is trying to get approval for a fourth, is it fourth? Yeah.
Yeah.
Another booster or whatever, another shot. So now you're thinking, do I really need another shot?
Yeah.
Or
Right.
is this because this company is trying,
To
has to keep the...
prolong the
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think that comes from the mistrust, because we've been basically played so many times.
Yeah, look at the amount of money that's been paid out in lawsuits between the pharmaceutical companies, and now it's built into the budget, right? It's a part of, and all this is public knowledge, That's why, to your point, that's why we distrust them, and I don't really see that changing. Do you?
No, I don't.
What do you think we could do to change it?
I haven't the slightest.
Yeah.
I honestly, because I mean, you could say let's do universal healthcare, and having gone through what healthcare is here, I would say that it is. I think it's definitely needed. If not, we should put a little more emphasis on portions of it that would work with us. But do I think it's going to happen? Honestly, no. I think people don't like change. And I think that the word socialism has been thrown around way too liberally. And anything that would even remotely be beneficial to society as a whole, and especially those in certain demographics, is immediately labeled as bad. It's socialist. It's, it's not democratic. It's anti-capitalist. And so therefore it's bad. And so it's really frustrating because, I don't think that, I think there are certain components that would really be beneficial, but we'd have to change our mindset. And not only that, we'd have to change the money. And that's the biggest thing. The money's not going to change.
I mean, it's apparent too. If money wasn't the objective here, we wouldn't see a declining in our overall the health of our population, right? Like, we're the fattest we've ever been. We're the most overweight we've ever been. And instead of attacking the problem at the source, we're just providing remedies. We're providing we'll just take care of the people who are sick because of poor health habits.
Yeah. Again, it's reactionary.
Exactly, because there's money to be made there, right? It's like a they call it the military industrial complex, but this is like the health industrial complex,
yep,
right?
100%.
Where it's self-serving and requires a certain level of government intervention to make sure it doesn't take advantage of its people, right? So when we talk about systems that make filing easier for our doctors, maybe there should be laws or regulation put in place where doctors aren't allowed to see more than X amount of patients per day. Something like that, to where it protects the doctors from being overworked, but two, protects the patient from being overlooked or kind of
Rushed out.
Yeah. Or so.
I mean, to the flip side of that, you'll have doctors who are just in it for the money, and they'll say, well, no, I like the volume of people I'm seeing because I can charge more, or they'll charge the wrong code. So each code that you charge as a physician requires a certain level of time, testing, whatever it is, to meet that criteria in order to charge that. And a lot of patients don't know that.
Yep.
Patients don't know what those codes are.
When you get your explanation of benefits, it's like $1,000 charge for medical procedure.
Yeah.
And I think I'm okay with
that.
There's got to be a healthy balance between people wanting to do it for the money. Like, it is quite a feat to go through the amount of required training, as it should be.
And I think you should be rewarded for that.
Exactly. So there should be, we shouldn't just have people there for the money. And not everybody, we shouldn't expect, just like teachers, right? We shouldn't expect every one of those people to be just super passionate. Yeah. I'm going to wake up every day and want to go to work.
It's unrealistic.
Yeah, right? There has to be a healthy balance between creating an environment where you still cater to those passionate people, but also reward them, equitably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Equitably? Yeah.
I think there is a balance there. I think some of the Scandinavian companies have done a lot of, they've done plenty of stuff wrong too, but have invested in certain things that have kept their economies and people's lifestyles really, people being happy and things like that, and their economy strong. For instance, like you brought up teachers, paying teachers a good salary will keep your kids better educated because the teachers will be more motivated. You'll get people who otherwise would think, I am, not that there's plenty of teachers who are geniuses and very smart people, but someone who may go and do some other job that's not going to be necessarily contributing to our society, like bettering our society, won't become a teacher because it's too low of a salary for them. They can make double, triple, quadruple doing something else. Same thing with healthcare. To become a doctor, it's costing you like $300,000.
Yeah.
And then you don't get paid well for like 10 years at least.
Yeah.
Some doctors never really get paid that well for all the work that they had to go through. And so now you're getting a lot of talent not going into the medical field, which is bad.
Or you
because-
have talent going into the wrong part of the medical field.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Which is bad in itself. So investing in some of those things in the right way can really, in the long term, really affect our society. I think we've seen with education, that's a huge one, right? We have people who are always complaining about our education system now and how less educated people, certain areas in our country are than other parts of the world.
And I hate the argument where people will say, well, the teacher knew what they were getting into when they decided to pursue that profession. And it's like, that's not fair, because they go in with passion. You need passion for that job, but then they get burnt out because there's no support system. There's not enough supplies. There's not enough to keep this going. And it burns them out so quickly. And it's the kids that suffer. And then eventually, like, society as a whole that suffers.
Right.
And it's really unfortunate because it tends to be those areas that suffer the most that are also the ones pushing against the upcrease in education and the upcrease in those social programs. And it's like, it's genuinely because they don't know better. And again, it comes to information and education. And if you don't have access to that education, or you're completely content with the way your life is, you tend to push against something that would, at the end of the day, be completely beneficial to you.
Right.
And it's really unfortunate.
And that will always be what is the downfall of humanity. I bring up the example of the Scandinavian countries like Norway and Sweden and whatnot. They have a lot of problems because of wealthier people in their countries moving businesses outside of the country and paying less taxes, right? We have that thing that a lot of people do in America. I know there's advantages to having tax incentives, but people will abuse it to the point where technically is a lot of the time fraud, but they can still get away with it because they can. And that's when it's exactly that. It's like people, if it will be beneficial to them, they will take advantage of it, and you can't keep the system perfect.
Yeah. And then you also have this idea of, cost versus like actually what's going to happen. So if you have 100 people doing something that will positively affect you, you're going to say, okay, well, these 100 people are already doing it. Why do I have to do it too? But that mindset is shared by everybody, or the majority. And so you end up with nobody doing the thing that would be beneficial, because you keep thinking, well, all these other people are doing it too, and I'm gonna get the eventuality of it, and not have to do any of the work.
All right. Yep.
What a fucked up world we live in.
It's a pretty depressing podcast.
People who own homes, anyone who owns more than one home, you're the problem.
You're the problem.
I'm just throwing it out there. You're increasing the cost of everyone else's living costs.
That is a pretty big problem. I think they were saying, like, at one point during the pandemic, I think a third of the homes that were being bought in Denver were these like rental firms. So it was increasing the amount of rent people were paying, but also reducing the amount of listings on the market for people who are like trying to buy their first home, trying to buy a replacement home of the home they already have.
You also have like these millionaires buying homes on these like plots of land that they'll never actually use or never actually live in.
Yeah.
And then it increases property values for everybody else, and they kind of get pushed out of the home.
Yeah.
Until the recession hits, and then they still have to pay property tax.
We've made this like thing where we say, if you want to have passive income and retire early and be a millionaire, do whatever, you got to buy real estate.
Yeah.
Like buy a house,
It's like
rent
those
it down.
bad
Buy a house, rent it down.
infomercials,
Yeah.
those like bad advertisements you see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have TV shows about fixing up homes. Not that that's bad, but if you buy a home, you spend $50,000 on it, and then you mark it up $100K.
And you turn around and get rid of it.
You just cost the market $50K on that house, right? It's and that's what's happening. People are like, do I need to have like the nicest appliance in the home that I'm gonna buy, or the apartment that I'm gonna buy?
Do I need a pot filler over my stove?
Yeah. It's like it's just, and then
What other commodity or asset is similar in that kind of way? Furniture, right? Secondhand furniture. I always see these TikToks of these guys like, I quit my day job to buy used items on the market, fix them up, and turn around and sell them.
Yeah, that's actually a really big thing. Like, people will go to the thrift store and buy things and then turn around and resell them. And now they're mad that the thrift stores have upped their price.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Do you think
why
they
are
were stupid?
you mad?
yeah, that's the thing. They ruined a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Like
did.
what they did is they said, okay, somebody is selling cheap stuff. I know I can sell it for more, so I'll go get it, put a little bit of work into it, and then sell it for more.
But Miles, that's capitalism. That's someone being like,
bro.
you know.
But the problem is that with that you should be providing a service. Like, you should be providing a good service, right?
Yeah, I think in this case, it's justified in that logic, because what they'd do is they'd buy a shitty for a coffee table, whatever, and then they would maybe they're crafty with woodworking and staining, so they strip the paint, they refinish it, they put some caps on it and maybe fixing some of the filler, and then sell it. Like, in that case, like, he took something shitty, made it look new, and then sold it.
So that,
right?
like, that you can kind of get behind. You're reducing waste, and you're putting real, genuine time into something. My biggest thing is the people who go to like fucking TJ Maxx and buy a T-shirt and then sell it on Amazon for like 3 times the price.
Poshmark or something.
Yeah, you're not doing anything.
It's like sometimes you see these pop-up like hipster markets.
Yeah.
It's like
Strawberry, that one place that we went to. That was exactly what you're describing.
yeah, it's like you go in there and this T-shirt that somebody got from Margaritaville in Fort Lauderdale
Yeah.
is $40.
Yeah. And that's actually really, like, that place was so much cheaper than the other places I've seen.
Totally.
And that's ridiculous because they were still a little too expensive.
The stuff in there was reasonably priced, I would say. The first time I ever saw anything like this was in Florida. There's a massive Haitian population down there, and Goodwill's been around for a while. So I remember growing up and going to Goodwill, and I would see, I would see them buy just a ton of shit, and then they would send it back to their country, and they would sell it like double, triple the amount of money, because they were getting things in America so cheap, and then sending and selling it for like hella.
Yeah, you see that a lot at
right?
like Dolphin Mall and like Dadeland Mall. Like, people will come
back
over.
in Miami?
Yeah, people will come with suitcases and just buy all the jeans in the store that they can get their hands on, and then go home and sell it all for like 3 or 4 times the markup.
It's fucking genius. And they're the OGs. They're the ones that we need to, like, the people that are doing on TikTok need to like salute those people.
They started it.
So that stuff's actually, I mean, like, that's furniture is more expensive in Haiti than in the U.S.
No, I just don't think they have that stuff over there.
So people are willing to pay a price for it.
Exactly. That's like
Plus, I think there's this kind of like, it came from America.
Well,
you know what I mean?
And depending on what it is, like, for the big thing was, I remember jeans. You're spot on with that one. But also Apple products over in the UK are much more expensive than they are over in the United States. So people would come over here, buy a shit ton of Apple products, take them back over, not pay import tax on them, and then sell them for slightly lower than the retail price over in the UK.
Yeah,
and
just
profit.
enough markup to make it worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
Illegal.
okay.
Yes. None of what we're talking about.
Well, I didn't know if it
is
was
basically like above the board.
if it was that if it's below a certain threshold, they don't pay the import tax, so it's still legal, and that's why they're able to do it. But
Well, that's the thing. Like,
we're
when
talking
you
about the black market
when
here.
you travel internationally, when you get to your destination before you board, they gave you those. You have to claim,
declare whatever
declare
you're
what you're bringing in.
Yeah.
That's basically what you have. Like, and if you sneak in a couple oranges, right, and like, and you're just like, what?
Well, it's like you can bring back so many bottles of wine, for instance,
Yes,
without
right.
having to pay tax on
Right,
it. It's
right.
a pretty low number, but that's what I was saying.
Also, too, though, like, you would hope that your stuff gets really examined when you're coming in or out internationally, but like, I've done it. Doesn't really get examined. They kind of take you at your, depending on what you look like, being real here, they kind of take you at your word.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had to send a suitcase through their scanner before. I always just walk through customs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have global entry, so I'm trusted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right?
They're just like, oh yeah, it's Miles.
Guys,
We're
he's
good.
back.
We're good.
Hey, there's you get the special line, the diplomat, international diplomat line.
Actually, I think if you have global entry, you get pre-TSA check with it for
do.
free.
You get
So
when you're coming back into the country, there's a line for U.S. citizens, non-U.S. citizens, Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, and global entry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
2 of them lead to a prison, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Which one, though?
Dun, dun. That'd be crazy. That'd be a good game show.
Yeah, that would be. You get to come to America, but only if you pick the right line. One of them leads to your death. One goes straight to prison. One is in America.
I'm surprised we haven't seen a show like Cops, but for TSA. It's like a reality show for TSA, like
Yeah, we're
transportation.
the border agents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess. Do they have?
That would
Do they
be.
have a show?
I feel like they could make a show.
They
of
could.
that.
It'd start to be kind
I
of
think it would.
xenophobic.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
little bit.
think it would cause a few
That,
problems.
or it would expose all the
all the
abuse.
bullshit. Yeah,
That's true. Maybe
100%.
that's why they haven't had
That's
a show
probably
yet.
why.
Like
ICE were on to you.
they took Cops off the air after like the whole George Floyd
Oh, wow.
incident.
Yeah, but don't they still have like live PD and stuff?
No, actually, I'm sorry. They took off live PD.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, because I think Cops was one thing where it was like, pre-recorded, they could edit it.
Yeah.
But live PD, it was kind of like anything was, if it happened, it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I think. It just wasn't a right time to be glorifying, in a way, kind of glorifying police activity.
I've always thought that was super weird to begin with. I mean,
it's trash
as
TV.
a young
People
boy,
love
It is.
trash TV.
I liked, as a young boy, I liked watching Cops.
It's super entertaining, though, right?
Yeah, because it's
It kind
entertaining.
of is.
But
it makes you feel good about yourself because you're seeing these other people.
Yeah, you're
and
like, well, I'm not that guy.
but then you eventually start to think about it, and you're like, I am sad because there's so many people.
Yeah,
like
because
that.
I think if you took the entire catalog of Cops and you rewatched it, I think you would find a lot of examples of systemic like racism or somewhat injustice, or I know it's like edited after the fact, and so I'm wondering how much of
wasn't put in.
how much of it was like, oh, probably can't show that
Yeah.
on TV. But yeah, it was kind of a
Release the tapes.
yes. We want to see. Forget who killed JFK. We want to see the unreleased Cops edition. It'd be so fucked. As soon as you get in the office, they show you if aliens are real, who killed JFK, the Watergate stuff, and then the unreleased deleted
footage.
scenes. Cops TV show.
Yeah. I
No,
don't know.
that would be fucked.
That would
Is
be
Cops still on the air? Can you look that up? I'm actually, because I know Live PD for sure has been taken down.
I think I watched like 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah. It
It-
is kind of addicting. Is it on?
So, yeah, and it's on Fox Nation.
Of course it is.
Are we surprised?
So let's pull that. What do we got here? Zoom in on that, Miles.
How long has it been going for?
Of course it's on Fox Nation, dude. So Fox Nation, is that like the streaming app for Fox News? Because I know like CNN has CNN Plus now.
It looks like it because it says Fox Nation America is streaming a service of Fox News.
Yeah, probably.
Interesting.
Let's see.
How much is it? 99 cents.
You can be a
for your
patriot.
first- Oh my God! How
Wow.
fucked is that? They're calling you. You get to be a patriot. Support America.
It's those
Support
buzzwords.
Fox News. Some guy thought he was so clever in a meeting where they're trying to figure out, the copy and language marketing for this.
Veterans and first responders only get a free year of Fox Nation. Wow.
So,
Thanks, Fox.
yeah, really, you're not 1 year. Come on, you can do better than that.
This is
They
ridiculous.
sacrificed their lives for us.
Wow.
What other shows?
You can watch every episode of Tucker, Sean, and
No
Laura.
thanks. No thanks. How fucked is that? That all these like videos of Tucker Carlson coming out and where he's like supporting Putin, like literally the only guy on television. How weird is that?
He's
Something else.
Something else for sure.
Something else.
Yeah.
Eh.
If there's one person who's done the most damage in the U.S. in the last 6 years, it's not Donald Trump, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's-
TC.
It's TC. Yep.
Tucky.
But hey, that's a discussion for tomorrow.
Yeah.
No one actually cares.
Yeah. Well, thanks a million for coming on. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing your story.
Thanks
It's an
for
incredible
having me.
story. We're so happy that it all worked out for you.
Me too.
Yeah. And I think it's a cool story because not a lot of people know what it's like to go through what you went through, and certainly it's inspiring, I think, to other people who may have similar issues and want to hear other people's journey through it to help them cope through it. So I hope that this episode reaches at least a few of those listeners at the very least. But we're super glad you're alive. Super glad you're here
Me
in Colorado.
too.
And I think I speak for both Miles and I when I say we definitely approve Logan. Yeah.
You guys are getting married
I got
next
the
year, right?
thumbs up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting.
September.
Wow.
And when's your book coming out?
Yeah, tell us your life story.
Actually, I've got one working on. No, I'm kidding.
I got a book deal already.
We get 10%.
Yeah. We'll have you back on to promote it. Let's just say that when it's out. Yeah, thanks again for being on. I really appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, adios.